Hello everyone. Happy Friday. I hope you have something fun planned for this weekend. Over here, I am still playing around with the Kuretake Granulating Watercolors, and today I am working with the Aurora Orange. So let's see what this is going to turn out. I made the back side wet per usual, and then I sprayed some water on the front side, and this is just diluted watercolor that I am placing on here just to get me started. And for those of you who are new to my channel and are wondering why in the world is she covering the backside of her page with water and then works on the front. Recently I've started doing that because it helps me keep my paper flat. That's the only reason why. It's really easy to overdo it with these colors, so I'm starting out light. I'm trying to also keep this painting a little bit more airy than the other ones I've done, but as you will see in the end, I ended up having to cover most of that white that is showing at the moment. For some reason, for the longest time, it reminded me of a face. And so I did not like that, and then I ended up covering it with more paint. As I'm starting to move the water and the colors around, it kind of reminds me a little bit of that game. When I played with it, it was wooden and it had a silver ball in it, and it was a maze, and you had to make it go through the maze until you ended up in the finish hole, and that's exactly what it reminded me of. So good times. But overall, this is a fun process and I really enjoy it. I am gradually adding more color to the water, and as I do that, I start to keep the color a little bit more intense. Because I have already a lot of water on the page, I don't necessarily want to introduce more, so I am trying to keep the water at a minimum after the first initial stage of putting the water on. And this is a stage where it started to creep me out a little bit, so I had to modify it somehow. I really didn't want to cover it all up, so I was trying to be very gentle, moving the colors over the white area. I don't think I was very successful though. As that color is starting to dry, you can see how that green is starting to really come out. And I was really surprised this time around that I ended up with so much green, because the initial swatch that I did was more of a brown tone. So having so much green come out really surprised me. I didn't have enough water in the pan, so I ended up having to squeeze the color out of my brush, and that's what I'm doing here, just to avoid adding extra water on it, because as you can see, there is still quite a bit of water sitting on there that hasn't evaporated yet. At this point, it almost had too much green on the page, and so I am trying to incorporate more pigment and hopefully get more of that orange come through. Right now I am prepping the sides of my paper up with the pans that come in the set, just to not make it flow too much towards the edges of the paper. I kind of want it to puddle in the middle a little bit more. And just to show you, this is what it looks like from the sides. I'm just trying to prop it up a little bit. The reason why I want to let it dry in between is so that I can play and move the color around to hopefully achieve more layers. With this color, it actually worked really well. I got a lot of different areas by letting it dry this way. Now the top part was very green, and so I was hoping to get a little bit more of that orange, and the bottom part was very orange, and so I was happy to see that the green was able to move down. Again, I let it sit for a few minutes. I don't time it, so I just know that I can't let it sit for too long and evaporate too long, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to move the colors around well enough. So I go back and check and see how it's doing. Now it really looks like rust when you look at it. I hope that comes through in the video. As you can see, it's moving very, very slowly, and this is the final drying phase. After that, we can start adding some more droplets of gold, and for that I'm using the Schmincke Aqua Bronze that I dilute with just water. And then I try to sprinkle some of that on the paper. I have to kind of squeeze the brush again to get some of that out and get some bigger blobs on the paper. After I am satisfied, I am also going to use more of the actual color to add some more drops on to that as well. Doing this helps me figure out how to proceed with the doodles. And then after it's fully dry, I can start with the doodling process. I am happy to say that it's no longer reminding me of a face, and that's a good thing. But it does look very industrial because of that rusty color. I felt it was more of a vertical piece, and so when I do that, I kind of want to create different levels. I did know that I wanted to turn those two darker spots into some sort of a flower, and I really like that I was able to incorporate something tall this time. I always start out with thin lines and then I decide how intense I want them to be later. So because these were so tall, I wanted them to be a little bit thicker. But the way I placed them kind of made it hard to make them thicker than I was able to do, which is fine in the end. It kind of worked. It is a very futuristic kind of piece, and I liked that the stems, because they were so tall, didn't end up taking away from the rest of the piece. And then, of course, once again, I am incorporating some cobblestones. Because of the way everything was proportioned, I felt like I needed to extend the cobblestones down into the bottom part of it. I also felt like those two flowers were kind of floating in the air a little bit, and so I wanted to ground them. And then it's really just how to fill up the page a little bit more, see what else I can outline and turn into something funky. Just like the cobblestones, this shape seems to be reoccurring lately as well. I really like how this looks, and so by turning them into that, I realized it didn't really look like a flower in the end after all, more like a futuristic plant of some sort. What do you think? So I totally did not want this to turn out as a leaf, but somehow it did. I was going to outline those three greenish looking partitions. I don't know what to call them. And when I did that, it totally started looking like a leaf. And stuff like that, I love when that happens. There's such happy accidents, and I think it just works like a half a leaf. And I was just really happy with how that turned out. And then the bottom part, I wasn't quite sure how to turn that into something. So I just extended the lines, made some more straight lines, and I really like how the colors separated and gave me layers like that. And so I didn't really want to cover it up too much, and it almost looks like what is it, like a fish fin of some sort, doesn't it? I knew I wanted to shade, obviously, because that's what I like doing. And I am just trying to see if I can find a green that works really well. This green that is coming out of that Aurora Orange is very particular. So luckily, the set that I have has very similar colors. And then I also pulled out some yellows and reds, darker reds like burgundies, and black. And I think I have that dark indigo color out as well. Once I started shading the top part, it reminded me a little bit too much of a fire going on, and that during fire season hits a little bit too close to home, so I didn't want to pursue it, and so I just kind of abandoned it and moved on. Shading my paintings in with colored pencils always transforms it so much. I love how you can create such depth by adding just such a simple thing as shading. And then, of course, I always end up putting some of my dots on top. And I don't think I've shown what I'm using. Most of you know it already, but if you don't, this is just straight acrylic paint, and I have it in white, in black, and in gold. And just so you guys know, everything is always listed in the description box below the video. Sometimes it's a little hard to find, but there should be a little arrow or where it says more. You can click there and it'll drop down and it should be listed there. If I missed something by accident, just let me know, and hopefully I'll see the comment and I will either guide you to it or add it. I also decided to add some of the acrylic white right on top of the pathway. It kind of makes it look misty and foggy looking. I really enjoy that technique, and that's just diluted acrylic white paint. All right, I am almost done and just adding a couple more finishing touches. I have one more in the series and then I can move on to something different. But I hope you enjoyed this video today. I am always happy to see your comments and see what you have to say. So if you want, meet me down in the comment section and we can chat a little bit more. I hope you all have a lovely weekend, and I will see you next week.